As the federal government shutdown enters its third week, here's where we sit on day 15. Senators will try for a 10th time today to approve House legislation that would reopen the government until November 21st. Yesterday, senators tried and failed to get enough votes to reach the 60-vote threshold needed to cut off the debate. Meanwhile, this is supposed to be an official payday for federal workers who receive pay through paychecks as well as active duty military, but most workers will not get paid, while President Trump has directed the Department of Defense to pay troops. And a key economic indicator, the Consumer Price Index for September, was supposed to come out today but was delayed. Let's get the latest now from NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. Alice, hello to you first of all. How enriched are both sides in this on day 15, and is there any place for some compromise in here?
Yeah, very entrenched. You know, we're continuing to hear essentially the same lines from the two sides, and the pressure is mounting. As you just laid out, there are a lot more real world impacts that are hitting because there are going to be federal workers, for instance, here in D.C., Capitol Police are just missing their first full paycheck. As you noted, military members are going to be paid because President Trump is ordering some funds to be redirected, and we understand he's trying to do the same for other federal law enforcement officers. But right now, barring that, you know, you're starting to really see the rubber hit the road, see the paychecks not hit the bank accounts, and that always adds to the pressure. Another area that we've been tracking is air traffic controllers. They got a partial paycheck, but if this goes another 2 weeks, they're going to be working entirely without pay. And we've seen some folks standing outside of LaGuardia Airport in New York, DCA, Reagan here in D.C. They're handing out flyers, trying to help people to understand that they're not going to be getting paid. There could be more delays potentially coming, and that it's not a good situation for people who are working a very stressful job. So the more and more that happens, and presumably they're handing out these flyers to people to try to get them to maybe contact their lawmakers, their local lawmakers, and start to raise the pressure to say, hey, I'm seeing this, this, and this that makes me worried, and it's time for you guys to really get off the starting blocks, because for now it does not appear that there have been any substantial negotiations between at least the top members of each party, and the main sticking point remains the same: these health care provisions that Democrats are continuing to say need to be part of a deal to reopen the government, and that Republicans are continuing to say need to be taken separately after the government is reopened.
Yeah, President Trump now threatening more cuts on what he calls Democrat programs, promising a list to come out by Friday. Do we know what could be on the chopping block?
We don't really, and that is why this list is something a lot of people are kind of waiting to get their hands on. Yeah, he went on about that for some time, about how he thinks these are socially, he said, semi-communist programs, and that there are not going to be any programs that Republicans back that are being taken away. But he did not name any names or get specific. You know, so far there have some NBC employees who were laid off and then rehired because there was in fact a glitch involved in some of their laying off. So there's been a little bit of confusion around any of the cuts that have taken place so far, any of the federal worker cuts at least, and presumably these would be going hand in hand. Programs that they're getting rid of would also involve more federal workers then being cut as well. But we're a little bit in the dark about exactly what he's looking at there.
Yeah, those hitting the airports may notice some changes. A video message from the DHS secretary came out. What can you tell us about that video?
Yeah, so this is something that the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem instructed airports to play across the country. It's a video that she wants played near security lines that shows her blaming Democrats for the shutdown, essentially, while folks are standing in line, that they would hear a little bit of context if maybe they're seeing longer lines because maybe there are some TSA agents calling out sick, etc. She's there speaking on these video screens, pinning the blame on Democrats. Many airports across the country, though, are refusing to play those videos, saying that they go against their policies on political messaging.
All right, Alice, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight today. Really appreciate it.